Folks, we gotta talk about the DNC chair candidate forums, okay, folks? It's important. If you don't know what it is, basically the DNC chair is one of the most powerful people in the Democratic Party. There's currently an internal election happening for the DNC chair, and there are a couple of different candidates. Two of the frontrunners seem to be we've got Ben Wikler, who is my personal favorite. He is the Wisconsin party head. And he is essentially the guy who helped turn Wisconsin from a deeply red state into a Democratic one. And so he's in the running. He has been apparently endorsed by Chuck Schumer. And I also heard some reports that he may have been internally endorsed by Nancy Pelosi, which, if so, this might all be done. However, we also have a few other folks.
Hey Jeffries, ya know who the Lord being on the throne didn't help. About 30 million people between Germany and Russia in the 30s and 40s.
True. But we also got Ken Martin, who is the head of the Minnesota DFL. And, frankly, I also wouldn't mind if Ken Martin won. He's not my number one pick, but he's probably like my number two pick. And so far, they're both doing pretty well in the race. The last time I looked at the numbers, Ken Martin was doing maybe like 10 signatures better. But Wikler is the candidate. In terms of like who's doing better, Ken Martin is doing a bit better, and Ben Wikler is playing catch up at the moment. An anonymous gifter, thank you for the 5 gifted subs over on Twitch. I appreciate it. Yeah, Wikler is again like the front runner in my heart, but let's see how he does in the candidate forum. Okay.
Where we break.
Well, yeah, but Ken Martin kind of sucks, but that's also most Democrats in my mind. So like, I do think Ken Martin is better than like Martin O'Malley, for example, but not by a whole lot. And Ben Wikler's like the top. When will the results come in? I am not entirely sure. Someone else will have to speak to that.
Communities are the leaders that they go to for reassurance and.
But basically, it's not going to be sideways forever. This will determine the future of like the Democratic Party. Are we going to go in a more establishment Dem direction, or are we going to go with Ben Wikler, who will take us in a much more a much scrappier direction to launch field offices in all 50 states and actively campaign in every state. I think that's the kind of energy we need.
Direction for a way forward. And I know that is hard for a lot of us right now.
Yeah, I know it's not a socialist platform. I know the DNC isn't socialist, but that's why I want to get more socialists into the Democratic Party. I want to co-opt them. I want to co-opt that organization for us.
We are only human, and when we ourselves are struggling with kind of a roller coaster of emotions.
I have no idea who this is. Let's get to the actual start of this.
For the DNC chair, the future DNC chair, to put forward their vision for Americans and fight for all Americans, then right here in the state of Texas. We have been fighting valiantly for so long.
Okay.
I'm an investigative.
Here we go. Yeah, seize the means of lawmaking, exactly.
Thank you. Get cozy, gentlemen. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here, and welcome to those of us joining on the live stream. My name is Olivia Messer. I'm editor-in-chief of the Farms Wire. We're a digital media company reporting on the food, music, people, culture, and politics of Texas. We're nonpartisan, but we're unapologetically progressive. I'm an investigative journalist by background, and Tori stole my line that I am an eighth generation Texan, and I'm not just making that up because she said it herself earlier. I'm honored to be here moderating this important forum today. Before we begin, I'll share just a couple of housekeeping items. Our candidates will each have 1 minute for an opening statement. I'll then ask a series of questions of each candidate before we proceed to questions submitted by members of the audience if we have time. Candidates will have 90 seconds to respond to each question.
God, what's throwing me right here is there a range from biggest to smallest? I don't know. It's like kind of pleasing how they shrink.
And a 30-second rebuttal period if needed when I ask point follow-up questions. Today's forum is co-hosted by the Texas Democratic Party and Wikler, who have each solicited questions from members of the Democratic National Committee of Texas, as well as from party activists. I've spoken to members of the DNC in advance of this forum, and I've got a couple questions of my own. These questions have not been provided to the candidates in advance. For our in-person attendees, you
Okay, I really hope the audio quality on the other mics is better.
can submit your own questions to the candidates by using the QR code on screen. Our goal is to help members of the DNC make the most informed choice they can in advance of casting their votes for chair. But at the Bar Choir, we also believe deeply in making information about politics more accessible to average folks who don't live and breathe this stuff every day.
Oh, also, one of the reasons it's important to get involved in your local Democratic Party is because if you are in your local Democratic Party, you can become a delegate, and then you as a delegate can vote on issues like who should chair the DNC. But you need to become a part of the local Dems first before you get a say in this type of an election. So it's really important for us to get involved so that we can have a say in the levers of power within the party itself. And by the way, as somebody who's now been to one local Democratic meeting, I can tell you it is, in some cases, absurdly easy to be a state level delegate. Like, it's literally my local Dems were like, yeah, you know, anyone can be a delegate, whatever, just put your name forward. You know, we aren't going to choose delegates today, but like, you know, like if we need to, we will. Essentially, like if Ken Martin wins, like, we'll give away delegate titles like candy for the internal power struggle that will ensue in Minnesota, which very interesting to me. You know, I'll throw my hat in the ring for that.
To that end, I'll be digging in and asking you to use a little less jargon and a little more plain language as we talk about the stakes of the selection. This forum is happening at a time.
Yeah, it's true. Local parties often like don't have enough people to fill delegate slots. Like you can wield so much power if you show up to your local Dems with just like a handful of friends to like participate in good faith, you know?
When Democrats are coming off the disappointing 2024 general election, having lost both the presidency and control of the US Senate, while Republicans maintain control of the House. Many are asking, what did the Democrats do wrong and what can they do differently? There's a real hunger for both accountability and authenticity. Our candidates join me to talk about the future of the Democratic Party are Ken Martin, chair of the Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party, Mark O'Malley, former governor of Michigan, and Ben Wikler, chair of the Wisconsin Labor Party.
Oh damn, that room loves Ben Wikler. Holy shit.
I know things got contentious at the Detroit Forum and have in the press since, so we appreciate the energy, but we will ask the candidates to be respectful of one another and our audience and our timekeeper. With that, let's begin. First, we'll go to Governor Martin O'Malley. Governor O'Malley, please share your 1 minute opening statement.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you all for caring so deeply about our country, about our party, and about this critical juncture that we find ourselves in. My name is Martin O'Malley. I'm the former mayor of Baltimore, former governor of Maryland. And most recently, I was asked by the president to go and turn around Social Security as it was headed towards a customer service meltdown. So I've had a lot of experience turning around big organizations. I'm alone among the candidates on this stage. I've run for office and been elected to office, and including after a recession. The time we find ourselves in.
This man does not instill me with confidence. Just as an FYI, like I hate him the most out of these three.
Right now, it's a party. It's a time that calls for a fresh pair of eyes, It is a change election, a time when we may need to make in rapid succession a number of changes so that we can win the next election and save the republic we carry in our hearts. Thank you.
I really don't think it's a good move to portray yourself as a change candidate, Martin, because you're about to get blown the fuck out of the water by the guy right next to you.
Next, we'll hear from Chairman Wikler.
Good evening, I'm Ben Wikler, I'm the chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin. For the last 6 years, I've been crisscrossing the country saying, if you care about the fate of American democracy, donate to Wisconsin, volunteer in Wisconsin, get involved. We've supersized our party and we've unrigged a state that Republicans have targeted with voter suppression, with union busting, with attempts at every way they could, with gerrymandering and everything else for total control. But now the front line of the fight for American democracy is Texas. There is no long-term future for Democrats to win national elections unless we do the kind of year-over-year building and investment and organizing, not just with the Democratic Party, but with the union movement, with our allies and partners, with this whole country, making Texas its cause. And I'm running for DNC chair because we need all of us to win the fights to stop the GOP from rigging this country against working people. If we do this together, and I'd be honored for your support, we can ensure that not only is there a blue Texas, but that Texas tips this entire country towards the kind of country that we all need it to be.
I think you can, like, the juxtaposition between Martin O'Malley and Ben Wikler here is insane. Dude has the sauce. Ben Wikler has the sauce. He's got the riz. He's got the like political riz to win this DNC position and actually use the like apparatuses of the Democratic Party to win local, state, and national elections. And like we need that. We need someone who's got that dog in him, you know? That dog will hunt.
Chairman Wikler.
Thank you so much. And we're all here obviously because of Monique and we love her so much, but let me tell you why we're really here, which is because Texas, to Ben's point, is absolutely critical to the future of winning the presidency, winning control of the Congress back. You heard Leader Hinojosa talk about this. The reality is this state is going to gain 4 to 5 congressional seats after the next reapportionment. 14 seats, 14 legislative seats. You break that trifecta, we can actually make sure we deliver the presidency, not just in this next presidency, but for years to come, given the size and importance of this state. So truly, the future of the Democratic Party, the future of our country goes right through Texas. That's why we're all here tonight. And we didn't come to any other state who invited us. We've actually only been in person, one other time for these forums. The reality is we're here tonight because we believe that the heart of this party beats in Texas and the future of our party goes right through this state. So thank you so much.
See, okay, my impression of all of these three people, I'm just gonna give you straight up. We've got Martin O'Malley here on the far left, ironically, who is a corporate ghoul. Then we've got Ben Wikler, who actually has a plan and the charisma in order to deliver on that plan to turn the Democratic Party around into a party that actually gives a shit about working class people and turning out people to vote. Okay? And then we've got Ken Martin, who seems like a relatively competent bureaucrat. That's all I got. That's all I got on
Ben
him.
Wikler got that. Sloppy socialist. Look going. That's the man who can win double-digit Trump districts across the country with ease.
Yeah, he's got the riz. Forgive my ignorance, but what is a delegate? A delegate inside of the DNC is someone chosen, or like in a lot of cases, like anywhere from several to a dozen people chosen to represent the local party in like inter-party discussions. So like delegates vote on issues pertaining to like the DNC representing their district, but they are not like elected officials in like a democratic sense. They are, I mean, in some cases they can be, but like they are chosen by like your local Democrats to represent your local Democrats in wider conversations. Selected officials, yeah. And yeah, if there's like in every state, it's going to be organized differently what delegates can do, how they're selected, etc. But eventually, like you become a level of delegate that can talk and influence these national level elections. But it starts on like a state level. Like if you're a delegate, you get to represent like your county or Senate district on a state level in the Democratic Party, and it can go from there.
All right, for our first question, it's the single issue we've heard the most from members of the DNC in advance of this one. Mr. Wikler, the Democratic Party has struggled with tension between building party.
And also, that's okay, One-Eyed Heathen. However, I would still encourage you to show up to meetings if you are at all able.
Infrastructure to compete in revenue states like Texas and focusing on the immediate political imperative to compete in traditional swing states like Pennsylvania and Arizona. How will you balance the need to spend the millions of dollars necessary to win in states that are competitive in 2026 and 2028 versus investing longer term in states like Texas?
The key, if we want to do both, and we have to do both, is that we need to expand the pie. We need a Texas-sized pie.
Hell yeah, I love pie.
Party. And what that means is we need to inspire people to believe that it is worth donating to, volunteering with, getting involved in this party. We're a party that actually...
Tiramisu, we have a president who's convicted on 34 felonies. You can definitely get into politics even if you were convicted of a non-violent crime. Pretty sure you can get into politics even if you were convicted of a violent crime.
Fights and delivers results. And that means building plans that are credible. And that means working with our allies and partners. That means working hand in glove with the labor movement, working with grassroots organizations, working with Way to Lead, Way to Win, with Emerge, with all the groups that make up our ecosystem, and building a plan in each state that people can see how they are part of that battle plan. And then going out. And when Trump does something heartbreaking, shocking, outrageous, what he's doing right now, that we say, if you are furious about this, we have something for you to do. And that's what it's going to take. And that's...
He gets it. He just fucking gets it. People want to be able to do stuff. You just have to show them how. You just have to give them an avenue to like actually affect the outcome. He gets it, man. He gets it in a way I haven't seen a Democratic official get it since Bernie. You know?
What I'm excited about doing it from the DNC chair is to explain how, if you pour your heart and your soul and your energy...
Any way I can help him get in, I'm pretty sure you can donate to his DNC political chair campaign. You can donate. You might be able to volunteer in some capacity. Let me grab his website real quick. Here we go. Here's his website. I've never heard of this person. Who is he? Essentially, he is the guy who took Wisconsin from being a Republican stronghold and organized the Democratic Party in the state in order to combat that threat and overturn it and turn it blue. He is the reason that Wisconsin currently has a Democratic governor that is able to veto the worst policies that are coming out of the Republican legislature. He's the reason, like, a lot, like, abortion bans haven't gone into effect in Wisconsin, for example. Like, he's the strategist who has been working in the loser position for years to now be in the winning position. So yeah, you can look up his platform, which is good. And you can sign up to keep up to date. Maybe I should sign up as a member of the press. Maybe I could get him on the show. That'd be fun. You can donate. Can do a lot of stuff. Maybe I will sign up and do that.
Energy into this party, that we can actually build something that can win tough elections in Texas and in former battleground states and in battleground Texas and in states that are a long way from being where Texas is in terms of the road to becoming purple and then blue. Every state has fights that if we push just a little bit further, we can win. Every state has a 10-year path to being able to create dramatic change. So we need to build a plan state by state, not a 50-state strategy, but 50 state strategies in a strategy of each territory. And then we need to inspire people to put themselves into that fight. Thank you.
Governor Bentley, same question.
The key to our party's future is really that I think I want to incorporate all of the words that these other gentlemen said, but the biggest change that we need to make is actually to return to the economic issues, the concerns that people have, because that's true across every state. Texas is the key to this country's future. You all know the way the demographics are changing, you know the way the populations are changing, and you know the way the reapportionment will then shift electoral votes as well as congressional votes south. So we need to invest more in Texas. We need to make sure that we have the resources on the ground so that we can register voters, stay connected to communities. And that's what we need to do in order that we can have a party and put the brakes on Donald Trump within the next 2 years. Every day, we need to be punching back around the economic issues and defending the dignity of every single person in our country when he takes swings at them and undermines the very foundations of what it means to have a republic. I also want to,
You know, like, it's interesting that he talks in a lot of vague generalities that, like, is so interesting to see juxtaposed next to Ben Wikler, because, like, Wikler's like, yeah, we need to have a process here to actually, like, channel people's dissatisfaction and rage so they do not go back to sleep and become apathetic. Dude gets it. This guy is just trying to be like, yeah, the republic's in danger. You should all stop that. And that's not enough to motivate anyone to get involved, frankly. Your average working person doesn't really give that much of a shit about the republic. They care about, like, the price of bread.
acknowledge that we're joined by John Bryan,
Yes, these are the three up for DNC chair, the most powerful position in the DNC.
Representative John Bryan.
Like, remember how people say the DNC rat fucked Bernie Sanders out of the presidency? If we got Ben Wikler in as the chair of the DNC, we could ensure that the DNC actively helps and supports candidates like Bernie Sanders and farther left candidates who are pro working class policy in the future. Like, he would become a pretty important catalyst for changing the very nature of the political party of the Democrats.
And I had the honor to work for him when I was in college in his office in DC. And I mentioned before that former Governor Ben Warnes is here. So
I will
thank
after
you.
the segment, Andromeda.
Thank you so much. Look, in Minnesota, our motto is built to win, built to last, right? It's an acknowledgement of the role of political parties. We have one single role. We are part of a larger movement of folks fighting for economic and social justice, of course, but the role of political parties is singular, it's to win. We have to win elections. But we do that by building to last as well. So we're not rebuilding infrastructure every 2 to 4 years, which is why I'm proud of the 57 states.
Coolest dude in the universe. I don't fuck with third parties. I don't view them as a viable path towards like having an effective theory of change in America. At least not until we get ranked choice voting, but no one who advocates for third parties seems to be interested in actually getting that. So I just tend to consider folks who are shilling for third parties to be deeply unserious.
State party strategy, which I wrote, an acknowledgement that if we're going to turn a red state to a purple state to a blue state, we have to invest time, energy, and money everywhere, not just in the battleground states, not just in the big states, but in all states, right? There's no such thing as a perpetual blue state, right?
By the way, they are all making this argument about having a 50-state strategy because Ben Wikler was the one who actually cares about that and brought forward that policy.
Governor O'Malley then, right? Maryland had lost votes this year. A lot of our blue states lost votes because we're not investing in
Ranked choice voting would mean your third parties would actually have to do things. That's true. They aren't terribly interested in that.
in there.
Generally.
Not because I didn't. My point is we have to invest everywhere. If we want to move and build a national party, my plan calls for us to invest.
Wait, why third parties? Because I would like more than a two-party duopoly. I think distributing power more equitably across multiple political groups would be better for us, generally. But, you know, until we get a different type of voting system, we got to make do with the two-party duopoly. And that's why I advocate for taking over the Democratic Party.
In all 3,244 counties throughout this country, an acknowledgement that we can't just focus on 7 battleground states anymore, or just federal races. We have to contest races up and down the ballot. You see, the conservative movement in this country realize.
Yeah, I will say that Working Families Party in New York does good work. I do respect them. I think they're great. But much like the DSA, they tend to organize alongside the Democratic Party because they recognize their position within a two-party duopolistic system that we have not overthrown yet or overturned with a different method of voting.
That they are exercising building power in every public policy arena in this country. Our indifference to
and I support that, coolest dude in the universe. But again, third-party advocates never seem to be interested in that. They disappear after the elections, and I never hear about them again.
School board should tell us everything we need to know about what we have done wrong as a party. We cannot ignore places where public policy are being battled right now. We have to compete every.
I disagree, Salmon Moose. I think that if the third parties that formed in the United States were actually interested in getting a ranked choice voting or like star voting or whatever different kind of voting ranking system you advocate for, I think that, like, if they were actually serious, we would get that passed in more states, and then they would in turn build up a real movement by having that kind of on the ground support. None of the third parties seem interested in that. Like, none of them. And so it's my problem is not with the concept of third parties. It's with most of the third parties we have in the United States seem to be built as vanity projects for the people who are in them and for the politicians who ostensibly lead them.
And that's what I'll do.
And I don't fuck with aesthetics. I want material change.
Next DNC chair.
Thank you. I want to get a little more specific on those answers. And I think that requires visiting our history. Has the DNC appropriately invested in Texas to date? And what do you mean? What does it look like to invest in Texas? Let's start with you, Chairman Martin.
The answer is no. The answer is no, they haven't.
Wait, why are you countering that the New York Working Families Party does wield power in the Dem Party? I said that. They work alongside the Democratic Party to wield power. That's exact. Fuck.
Third party?
Jesus.
More like turd party.
I mean, you know.
Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 gifted tier 1 subs. I can tell that I've passed my limit for chatters today because I'm getting mad at folks that I shouldn't be getting mad at.
Part of the reason, Monique could tell you, of course,
What about the Progressive Party USA? It's been led by a 20-year-old, and the only thing that is off, but like the party plan is solid. The plan is to win hyper-local elections first and slowly move upwards. If they can actually manage to do it, I want to see it happen first before like I endorse it, you know? Like I want to walk the walk, and then I'll pay more attention, you know?
they come and ask the DNC and others for, resources. Well, Texas is so expensive, so big, it's so expensive to compete. Sure, it is, right? But this is where we have been so myopic. When we start to think about what Gina Hinojosa just said about where the power is shifting out of the Midwest, out of the Northeast, out to the South, the fastest growing states in the country are all Southern states. North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, Florida, right? That's where the power is. So, I was in Mississippi with Brandon Presley 2 years ago. He was our candidate for governor down there. He's tied with the Republican Tate Reeves. I asked him, what more can the DNC do to be helpful to you in this moment? He said, years of indifference and disinvestment in southern states has led to this moment where I have to build everything myself because there's nothing on the ground there to help me. Now imagine if we had looked 10 years prior and saw that there are more African-American voters in Mississippi than any other state. We started doing what Stacey Abrams did in Georgia, registered and mobilizing those voters. We would have.
I will say it's tough going to like a DNC meeting, or not a DNC meeting, like a local Democratic meeting, and seeing that it's like 15 people who are in their 80s, and like realizing that with a fraction of the effort that like posters on the internet, apply to their snarkiness, like we could just show up to these meetings and actually wield real political power instead of complaining all the time. It is deeply frustrating. Deeply frustrating. On the one hand, we got people who are like, no, we need to build a third party, an entirely new political party. It's like, there's one right here that we already have that has like billions of dollars. We could just take that by showing up to meetings, guys. We could show up and be snarky in person and then like seize the power of the purse in the Democratic Party. Literally be cool as fuck political pirates. Let's go.
Had something on the ground to help. That's the point. In Minnesota, we use a hockey analogy. You have to skate to where the puck will be.
Exactly. And you know what? Republicans were fucking right when the Tea Party started invading the Republican Party. Guess what? They radicalized it and they won. We should radicalize in the opposite direction, the Democratic Party.
Not where the puck is. We need to start skating to where the voters and the voting is going to be, and that's right here in Texas. We cannot disinvest any longer here if we want to change our fortunes as a party.
Chairman Wikler, same question. Has the DNC appropriately invested in Texas to date, and how can it do so more specifically?
Let's go.
The DNC.
Let's go, Ben.
Does not, I agree with Chair Martin. And I think the country is not. Often Democrats nationally treat Texas as an ATM where you go to raise money and then take it away instead of treating it as where we need to invest in welfare. And there have been these amazing campaigns with amazing candidates over and over in Texas where the country gets transfixed on Texas for this brief moment before the election. But the problem is, between elections, what are we building? The work that a party does has to be building infrastructure on the ground, building relationships on the ground, building teams of volunteers who actually know their neighbors and have already built a relationship so that when they come to talk about a particular candidate.
Do you think there's a chance of ever getting past but at least they're not a Democrat mentality in some areas? Coder Joe, yes, but it relies upon making the Democrats actually useful and actually people who support working class policies. It relies on us changing the fabric of the party, but the fabric of the party only changes if people get involved to change it,
They already have trust. That is teams that look like the community, speak the same.
CF3300, yeah, the Tea Party was essentially MAGA in beta.
Language of the communities in which they're knocking on doors. The communications infrastructure to make sure that barbed wire grows, that the candidates are spending time there, and that across Spanish language like radio and Black radio newspapers, and across the new media outlets, that everywhere there's already trust and already relationships. So that when we have that amazing candidate, that we can come in on top of an infrastructure that's already been built. And that is what the DNC needs to do differently, to be a catalytic investor with the labor movement and other partners to build the infrastructure so then we can actually take off from a solid foundation.
The great thing about listening to Ben Wikler is it's very clear that he has sat down and he has been stewing on this for like 3 or 4 years and actually has very specific plans that he is extremely confident would work. Like battle tested,
Governor O'Malley.
Now, clearly, we haven't invested enough in Texas. I've not been on the DNC before. I am probably of the three of us, the one that is the fresh pair of eyes and the change.
Martin O'Malley, the oldest man on the stage, is the spry newcomer with the freshest pair of eyes, huh? All right.
Maker. I'm looking, I see some great leaders that you have in Texas.
The change leader, baby.
Ehrenberg from San Antonio.
He's gonna shake things
Senator
up.
Royce West. And it's pretty clear in talking to many of you and DNC members on the phone that there's a few things we need to do. Number one, we have to stop letting them shape the electorate. We need to get back in the business of direct voter registration. Number two, we cannot keep falling further and further within a shrinking blue perimeter. And by the way, Maryland is still the cobalt blue flame of hope. And the Democratic governor just elected the first African-American woman to. But we have to get into direct voter registration again. We have to invest the dollars and the staffing in order to.
Yeah, keep in mind, Martin O'Malley has been around in politics for a while, if you haven't guessed from his appearance. He is not a left-leaning guy. He's a neoliberal shill. Like, he's one of those people who wasn't like, it's not like he was a neoliberal because like, he was going along with, what everyone else was doing. He's ideologically married to being a neoliberal. I believe he is completely incapable of rising to the occasion that the current lacking of a DNC chair is offering us.
To do that. Secondly, you will have a great staffer who is all about candidate recruitment, but you have one. We need to recruit candidates all across the ballot, not down the ballot, but all across the ballot, including the courthouses. And three, we need to make sure that we create donor circles in all of the states and in adjoining states so that we can invest in people running for state legislatures. We need to take back our states in order to save the.
Keep in mind what he is proposing here, like donor circles, is basically we need to have a bunch of local and state businesses donating every year so that we can fund our political campaign. He's not talking to the people. This guy is a corporate stooge.
United States.
Normal people don't join donor circles.
Members of the DNC have told us that they want additional input and transparency in the management of the party's finances. Chairman Martin, we'll start with you. What financial oversight, input, and transparency can members of the DNC expect if you are?
Well, let me just say it's a shame how business is done down there. I've been an officer, a vice chair of the DNC by virtue of being elected by my peers at the state parties as the president of the ASTC. And people ask, well, you must know what the budget is at the DNC. No, I don't. Never seen the budget, never seen a financial report, never seen an audit report. I've never seen the contracts. That's going to change when I'm done. And it's going to change because transparency is really important, especially at this moment, right? There are a lot of people who gave a lot of money this last election, over $2.5 billion spent on the presidential campaign, $10 billion just in 24 alone.
Also, just as an FYI, guys, always worth bearing in mind about Martin O'Malley is that he did actually try and run for president back in 2016. You might not have remembered because a lot of other things happened in 2016 that were apocalyptic in nature, but he only got 0.6% of the vote in the Iowa caucuses. So this dude should not be in charge of the DNC. He is not qualified. He does not have the hard-toothed experience of being popular enough to win his own elections on a national level. Okay? He's just not equipped for that. He was mayor of Baltimore and governor of Maryland, but he's not really of the zeitgeist, we'll say.
Spent on Democratic campaigns in the ecosystem. A lot of people are frustrated that we lost, and there needs to be transparency on how that money was spent and what our budgets are. Ben says this all the time, and I agree with him. Our budgets are a reflection of our values, and we need to open them up.
It's incredible how both of them just agree with Ben. It's kind of crazy.
up and show people that we're living our values, both in the way we contract, both in the vendors we're choosing, and how we're spending our money. All of that is important. I often think of the Wizard of Oz. Remember when they pull back the curtain and it's just that little guy behind there twirling all those knobs? When you do that, you take the mystery away. Pull back the curtain, bring some transparency to this so people see that no one's trying to hide the ball here. And there's some accountability because again, it's a lot of people. It's grandmas and labor members and others giving $5, $10, $15 a month to help fund this party. They deserve answers on how that money is spent.
Thank you. Chairman Wikler.
It is time for a huge transparency upgrade. I completely agree. And it's striking. We're all running for DNC chair. None of us has seen the budget for this organization yet. We are walking into.
That's actually fascinating. You'd think that they would have some idea.
Chair incognita when it comes into this. And what we all know is that there's a lot of work to be done. And the way that we build trust is by having transparency and then laying out a plan for what we're going to do and then doing it and then reviewing together what we just did. That's how you build trust over time. So that starts with budget transparency for DNC members. It involves changing how we communicate with donors at every level to explain what our plans are and explain what actually happened. But there's another piece too, which is to have input on what those plans actually are. And to me, this is the key thing. In Texas, so many folks that I've heard from have shared, there are 7 to 8 million people who are registered who didn't vote in this last election. There's a huge turnout mobilization problem to make sure that once someone's registered, they go out and cast a ballot. That requires infrastructure on the ground. In my state of Wisconsin, we have same-day voter registration, so it's a whole different picture. We should listen to the folks who are closest to the fight to build a battle plan in each state. And Texas is quite a state. It's kind of 5 Texases in one state. To make a plan here that works for Texas and then do it, show that you get it, and that's how we build trust for the next time.
Yeah. You need to actually show that you're capable and that you're listening. Cause like typically guys, like a lot of campaigns are they're driven by consultants, and the consultants want to focus on the coasts. They want to ignore basically everything in between the coasts. They view it as a waste of time. So Ben Wikler here is advocating for something that is a pretty big departure from what the Dems have been doing, you know? It's honestly crazy. And I think that the only one really capable here of running this organization in a way that moves us forward is Ben. You know, like Ken Martin, Minnesotan through and through, but I'm not seeing much I like here so far.
A couple of weeks ago, I laid out a first 100-day plan for the rapid turnaround that we have to effectuate in the DNC. We have to acknowledge where we fell short, which is why on day 5, I'll appoint a
Okay, also, breaking news. Not really breaking news, this came out yesterday. But apparently Nancy Pelosi has backed Ben Wikler for DNC chair, which, like, is frankly shocking to me. I don't know what kind of deal with the devil happened. Maybe she's just on her way out and she just doesn't give a shit anymore and just like, yeah, whatever. You guys need to win. Yeah. So she put out a statement. For several years, I have had the honor and success to work with Ben Wikler, from his thousands of events to save our healthcare at Move On to his winning tough elections in Wisconsin, including Justice Janet Protasewicz, which, hey, we helped at that election. We helped at that one. And Senator Tammy Baldwin, she said in a statement, as a former state chair and longtime DNC member, I have enormous respect for the DNC and the grassroots activism it engenders. It is with great confidence that I endorse Ben Wikler for chair as the candidate best suited to lead us to a stronger DNC and many Democratic victories. That is big. Yep, Pelosi is a ghoul, but not an idiot. I'd agree with that that take. Yeah, I mean, I think Ben might have it in the bag if like he's got Schumer and Pelosi. That's interesting. Do you think she sees the writing on the wall? Well, she sees the writing on the wall, but also she's on the way out. Like she's not running for re-election. Was Wikler the good progressive? Essentially, he's the only candidate who actually has a battle plan to win elections. And without, like, by actually appealing to working class voters. That the core of Ben Wikler's entire political plan is that we should have people organizing on the ground in every state. I agree with that. And that we need to prioritize working class people and the policies that turn them out to vote. And I agree with that. So that's, you know, as far as like someone who is in charge of the DNC, that is basically the best pick we could probably come up with within the DNC right now. He's one of those progressive Midwesterners, you know?
Committed to do a deep dive after action report on the election. But on day 10, two task forces. One, on how we do a better job recruiting young people into this party. Secondly, though, is a task force on openness, transparent governance at the DNC. I think it's appalling that people never see the budget of the DNC. And we have to change that. Within 80 days, this is not a study it for a while sort of thing. We are going to be open and we are going to be transparent. I wrote a book called How to Govern for Results in the Information Age, Smarter Government. The key to leadership and governance is trust. And there is no trust without openness and transparency. I happen to talk to a number of people that
just as an FYI, for those of you who don't know, the election for this literally happens tomorrow, February 1st. So, yeah, this is, you know, we're about, the rubber's about to hit the road, you know? So let's, like, Wikler is performing extremely well here. I really do hope he pulls it through. The fact that Nancy Pelosi is issuing a last-minute endorsement, I think he might have it in the bag.
gave a lot of money to the campaign this last time. And they said, where did it go? Until you're able to tell us where it actually went, don't come back and ask us to do more. And that's also true of our volunteers and everybody else that gives to the party. We have to be more open and transparent if we expect to restore trust.
Wait, so the last time we did this, infiltrate the Democratic Party, it didn't work that well, considering the oligarchs in the Democratic Party will dumpster anyone we put forth. Bernie, for example, no. No. You can't do this to me, okay, buddy? I've been paying attention to politics for way too long for you to pull that, all right? When I'm saying infiltrate the Democratic Party, I'm not saying we wait for like 60 years for someone to build up enough political capital to like earn political favors with establishment Democrats in order to pull off a freak presidential campaign that then the DNC steps in and like shuts down. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you locally need to get involved in your local politics. Like, yeah, there are fucking oligarchs in this country. But you know what? They can't stop you from organizing locally. And organizing locally, that's how you get your mayor. That's how you get your city council. That's how you get your, like, various commissioners elected, okay? Oligarchs are not jumping into your, you know, suburban town or even your Midwestern city in order to influence those elections, all right? They got bigger fish to fry. And so the point I'm making is that we are rats. We are roaches to them. And they aren't going to pay attention to us while we organize locally. That's why we need to en masse mobilize locally. Enough of us get together, we actually start doing cool shit locally. Then we start building up to doing cool shit on a state level. And then we start building up to do cool shit on a national level. And by that time, they can start trying to stamp us out But it's going to be like a game of whack-a-mole that they are ill-equipped to handle because they're 90 years old and full of hatred and have never experienced the joy of whack-a-mole, okay? So when you say like, oh, we've done this before. No, we haven't. No, we haven't. Having been politically active for years now, I can tell you the leftists in this country have not done enough to organize within the Democratic Party. Or frankly, outside of the Democratic Party. What we have are a bunch of people virtue signaling to each other to jerk off in their respective rooms. That's what we've had. And what I'm proposing is that we actually use some of that energy that has previously been reserved for jerking off to actually go to meetings, participate in them, and build up political power locally, both within the Democratic Party and outside the Democratic Party in the DSA or whatever other more radical organization you want to be a part of. Okay, that's the proposal. And you can actually do cool shit. And if you're telling me, oh, but the oligarchs will reach in and stop you, I can tell you that you are full of shit and you have never actually tried to go to one of those meetings. Because I've been to one now, and I can tell you that my local Dems are all 80-year-old geriatrics who are desperate for anyone younger than the age of 60 to get involved. Desperate. They were so happy to see someone who's like not elderly and gray-haired in there when I joined. All right? If there were like 6 of me more in that meeting, we could have literally hijacked the entire proceedings and installed ourselves as the leaders of that party. Of the local party. They were desperate to give up their positions to someone else. So when you're saying we've tried this before, no, we fucking haven't. You're just defeatist. Actually get out there, give a shit, and try, and you'll see just how fragile this power structure actually is. All we need to do is get involved. Show up to meetings. Because guess what? Most people don't show up to the meetings. They just don't. Because they don't give a shit. And they assume that the meetings are packed and full of insiders who will undermine their positions. And they're not. They're just full of local people who want to try and make their communities better. And most of the time, if you propose a better idea than the one that is on the table, they'll be, and like give a reason why, they'll be like, that's really interesting. I think we could give that a shot. 90%, 95% of doing cool political shit is going to meetings. And giving up before you've even tried is some real loser shit. I've been to many meetings, and yes, they're old, but they do not want a socialist, no matter the age. Frankly, I don't think you have the interpersonal skills to be able to interact with other people in a way that inspires me with confidence that you've actually been able to interact with these people and not come across like a jackass. Does that make sense? Like, just from how you've been comporting yourself in my chat from the second you started speaking in here? Like, I don't think you have the level of interpersonal skills that is necessary to carry on a conversation with a stranger in a way that is effective at convincing them that maybe they should try your idea. I think you're too heated. I think you are a defeatist fuck who's given up, and I don't know why you're here if you've already given up. Like, I don't know, go smoke a joint and, like, I don't know, shit yourself. Like, guys... It'd be more productive than whatever the fuck you're doing here.
Trust and restore it quickly.
Gentlemen, we know that the next chair of the DNC will need to raise literally hundreds of millions of dollars to build and fund a competitive opposition party. How will you raise the money to fund the DNC's work? Can the party fight for working class people?
Like, this is the last thing I'll say about this before we go on. Like, I'm sorry if you think we are cowed, if we are at too much of a disadvantage to do anything right now by organizing, then I don't know why you're at all invested in this question. You know, like, it was always going to be an uphill battle to organize people power against the power of capital. And in the past, it literally took the deaths of like millions of people to overthrow the capital power structures of feudalism. And like, I don't know, like someone throwing their hands up and be like, but I can't get people to go to meetings, just seems like the most cucked shit. We have it easier now organizing politically for socialist values than we ever have. And you look at that and you're like, oh my God, insurmountable. Jesus Christ.
Undo some of its losses with lower income voters.
Like, I have contempt for you.
Out Trump's relationship with billionaires like Musk, Zuckerberg, and Bezos, all while raising money from your own wealthy big dollar donors. And is there an inherent conflict here that impacts Democrats' brand and strategy? Chairman Wikler, we'll start with you.
Absolutely.
I've seen candidates just drop off the moment someone rich the party doesn't like them. Well, then fucking organize better. Stop losing. Be better. Come up with a better plan. Stop being so cucked by loss. Jesus. If the only thing you're coming in here to do is say, oh, but the systemic power is aligned against us. It was always aligned against you, you fuck. That's what capital is. It's always been in opposition to us. If you're gonna whine about it now, you shouldn't be in the political position you're in. You shouldn't have the politics you do. Grow a backbone and do better. Fight better. Figure out how to organize better. Jesus. Have you never played a Dark Souls game? Have you never played Elden Ring? Fucking take some level of influence from culture, man. Then how are you going to deal with that then, instead of just hopping into the party and just hoping your votes in the party will matter? By getting other people to hop in with me. That's why I'm saying you should organize inside the party and also outside the party. You should do both. And then you can get the more radical people to come with you to the Democratic meeting. And then you can get more of you in the meeting where they make the decisions than there are of them. Because they have to vote in the meetings. My God. Do you not know how democracy works? Jesus. I feel like I'm so consumed with rage by the inability of some people to rise to the occasion and figure out that, like, oh, we need to organize more votes than the votes they have in a democracy. And it's like, yeah, oh, I've been organizing since Occupy and I haven't figured that out yet. Jesus. No wonder you've failed over and over and learned nothing from the experience.
If we want to win elections, we need to win the trust.
The Resist Dems did this. No, they fucking didn't. The Resist Dems were establishment Dems. You don't know what you're talking about. You're like Ace Ventura from the end of Pet Detective, or the beginning of Pet Detective, I guess, where he's talking with his ass. That's you right now. Stop it. Defeatist cucked bullshit. I was in this long before you had a Twitch stream, and guess what? I've done more than you have. I've been in this fight since Occupy. Oh yeah, what have you done? Oh, I've lost every single time, and I've given up all hope of doing anything. Oh, okay. Then get the fuck out of here. Like, I've been in here for 10 years, and all I've done is lose. Like, okay. And now you're what? Trying to convince other people to lose with you? Fuck off. You're like a drowning person at sea, trying to drag down a rescuer with you. These arguments you are having with the brick wall in chat is giving me extra motivated to get off my ass. You're welcome. That's why I have them. Because I know that by arguing with people like that, I motivate others in chat to actually give a shit and do stuff. Because I know that the worries that they express, even if they are stupid and belligerent, are ideas that lurk in the back of a lot of your minds. And so, to an extent, I want to argue with them so I can reassure you guys. Because that person has already committed to being completely and utterly ineffective at organizing shit. And so, I want you guys to learn that that's a horseshit position to take. Yeah, honestly, skill issue. Play through the first 3 Dark Souls games, and then get back to me, okay?
Across race and ethnicity, across the country, in Texas and everywhere. And to do that, we have to show that we're actually fighting on the side of working people, even if that means that a special interest might make a few less $1 billion a quarter. And the striking thing in this moment is that people who donate to Democrats, some big donors and many, many small donors, they're so hungry to win elections. So I actually think we're in a moment now where we lay out the plan to win and we work with.
Also, I'm sorry, I know I'm getting really heated at chatters tonight, but like, the idea that the well-meaning elderly liberals in my local DFL group are secretly motivated by big money, when, like, last time I went, like, the chair is like, oh yeah, you know, I've had a policy for the last 4 years of getting coffee with anyone who wants to just talk about any issues or learn how to, like, do anything. And, you know, if anyone wants me to step down, I'm happy to do it. So, and I'm happy to, like, mentor you so that you can fill my position. Like, these guys are desperate to give up power to anyone interested and willing to take it, you know? Like, in a lot of cases, that's not going to be every district, obviously, but like, the degree to which they are vulnerable to just being taken over and, you know, bettered with farther left political positions is really hard to to overstate. I forget. Whichever one it means, like, they really want you guys to take it, you know? Samara says,
We'll understand what's happening on the front lines. We show that we're actually making changes and listening to people as we do it and diversifying who we're working with and how we communicate.
Oh, they one of the mods banned them, Amber Brains. I don't know which one, but like, damn, people be wild in tonight.
That we can lean into the fights, that earn that trust, that make a difference for working folks. There might be some people who walk away because they're you know, they have a particular interest or whatever, but we're going to earn so much more trust from so many more people that will.
Yeah, like, honestly, Lucia, my impression after going to my Democratic meeting is that if I go there and treat other people nicely and kindly and with consideration, I could probably become chair of that local Senate district. You know, like, it within, like, a year or two. You know, like, that was my impression. And that's just me on my own. OMG, I literally showed up, volunteered to officiate a meeting, and a guy asked me to take a role in the SIO, Socialist in Office Committee, because organizations need help, and I offered to help. Yep, exactly. It's the same in DSA too. People are desperate for, like, folks who want to take initiative and, like, show leadership. Desperate.
Be able to supersize the resources we can bring to these battles. We've done this in Wisconsin. That there were several right-wing billionaires that super
I don't have water, Fox of Fate. I'm sorry.
funded the Republican Party that allowed Republicans to rig our state. And we've been able to quintuple fundraising in our state party to raise more money than any other
Distant sniper
Democratic state
gunfire
party has
tango
in
down.
the history of the country to fight back on behalf of.
Jazz Dog, thank you for the gifted tier 1 sub to Samara Says. I hope they enjoy it. And also, thank you for supporting stream. And if anyone else would like to follow suit, I would very much appreciate it, because we've been going for 5.5 hours. If you're enjoying the show, hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button, and consider dropping some subs, some donos, some super chats, because you are the ones who make this show possible. I would not be able to spend, you know, 2 hours covering the DNC the DNC chair race and yelling at chatters about getting more involved and not giving up at 3:30 in the morning without your guys' support. So please consider supporting the show and also like the YouTube stream.
Working people in partnership with the labor movement.
But you keep shouting at us. I know statistically a lot of you are bottoms and enjoy that though.
We must do that nationwide, and I think we can do that if we get into this fight in the right way now.
You think if we called ourselves labor, we'd give more traction? Yes. If you are going into an area where you know that there are going to be liberals who are going to be immediately put off by you calling yourself a socialist, don't call yourself a socialist. Call yourself someone who's pro-labor. Say that you are pro working class policy. You know, use different terminology to mean the same thing and make it more digestible to the people you want to convince. You know? That's part of, you know, learning how to like code switch between different audiences. Pro-union, another good way of billing it. You know? If you know how to like switch between talking to your friends and talking to your mom, you should know that you should probably also, like, in a similar tone to talking to your mom, approach people in the Democratic Party.
Governor O'Malley.
Yeah, we have to.
Yeah, bill it as helping the little guy. Exactly.
I see Robert Broker here, who's from Boston and was a member of that finance committee that did an outstanding job raising money for this last election. Did you know that 75% of the dollars raised actually came from small dollar donors? Notwithstanding the fact that we tend to hit them with scary nails again and again and again and again, instead of engaging in the conversation that can lead to more people wanting to communicate with us rather than more people wanting to put us on a spam blocker. So we have to raise money from individuals, all individuals. We have to be able to do both. We should also be clear about the principles. We shouldn't take dollars from people that are.
Dear Ascended Kitten, thank you for the $5 dono. And again, all I hear when this guy talks is that he wants to set up like basically some kind of system that allows for the DNC to more efficiently extract donations from the wealthy and the businesses. That's all I hear when he talks. It's like the want from Charlie Brown, except it's like capitalist propaganda.
Our opponents of our principles, not many of them come knocking on our doorstep, do they? So we have to be able to do both, but the more we can dial up the small dollar donors and actually do it well and do.
Yeah, that's another thing, Gamer G, and that's why I think that previous chatter that got banned is deeply unserious, because you do not have to walk in and say, I'm a socialist, everyone. Let's fall in line along the tenets of the great socialists like Karl Marx and Vladimir Lenin and Mao Zedong. Like, you don't have to like, you don't have to do that. You could just be like, yeah, I'm a union guy. I like unions. I like workers. Pro working class policy. Like, don't get obsessed with the labels, and instead, if you are going to work in local politics, get obsessed with the policy. So Jack, I used to be known in this community as Sheckley84. I changed my name because I came out as trans and I wanted a name that fit me better. Haven't been here for a while, but I feel like I need to come back to stream and listen again, considering gestures wildly everything. Understandable, Samara. And you know what? I think that's a lovely username, and I think it's great, and it suits you. So thanks for joining us again and coming back into the fold, and hope you're cozy here. See, I'm not mean to all chatters, just belligerent dumb ones.
Do better than the other people, especially when it comes to digital communications. Good Lord, they were running circles around us this last campaign. We were knocking on millions of doors, but they were already inside the doors through trusted people online where people get their news. So we have to be able to, I raise money nationally as the head of the Democratic Governors Association. 3 years of record fundraising. You have to make a decision which of the three of us is most.
3 years of record fundraising from corporations and billionaires. Let's see, what if I came in and said I was very disappointed in Democrats and feel like we need to have more of a spine? I would say that you should get the lay of your land for your local politics first before you make declarative statements like that. Because it could be that there are other people who agree with you but might not use the same terminology or may be put off by that terminology. And it also may be that there's more fight in your local Democrats than there are in the national level Democrats. National Dems and local Dems are two very different beasts.
It's likely to be able to raise the amount of money all across the nation in order to take this fight to Donald Trump and win back these next elections.
Thank you.
But let me just say, I do think it's important to make sure.
Read R, I think Incognate can be like about $120 a month if you got like one of them discount codes from like Illegal Eagle or something.
Folks on the record here. Ben's raised about
$120 per year, sorry.
$230 million for his state party. I raised about 220 for mine, and Governor O'Malley's raised about $95 million in total in his career. And so it is important. We've all raised money, and we've all done a good job with it, right? In addition to raising money.
Ken Martin savagely throwing Martin O'Malley under the bus. Holy moly.
I served on the Harris Walls Finance Committee and raised an additional $6 million for a presidential candidate. But let me get to the question, because we're all prodigious fundraisers. We all bring that skill set to this campaign. The reality right now is you have the oligarchy controlling this country. The three richest men in the country were sitting right behind the president as he was sworn in. It's not the top 1%, it's the top 100 of 1%. Their combined wealth of this new cabinet is $460 billion. We have to stand up and fight, I agree with Ben, for working people. And that means we have to make sure that folks know we're only going to take money from people who share our values. We need.
Nah, fuck that. Fuck that. Don't take big money. Fuck you.
To get dark money out of politics, we need to end Citizens United. We need to bolster our small dollar fundraising capacities.
Okay. A little bit less of a fuck you, but still fuck you. But you know what? It is refreshing to see someone be like, we do need to get dark money and overturn Citizens United. I do want that. Okay. I do want that. And I know Ben Wikler is in favor of that, but this is, I think, why, like, Ken Martin is, like, slightly above Martin O'Malley in my book. He at least recognizes some of the problems. But Ben Wikler is by far and away the guy who gets it the most.
So we don't have to rely on high net worth donors to fund all of our efforts. Make no mistake about it. When I'm the next DNC chair, we will not take money from people who are fighting against unions and working people. We will not take money from people who are polluting our environment. We will not take money from people who are standing in the way of people trying to exercise their freedoms and their liberties over their own healthcare decisions. We will only take money from people who share our values, and we will raise money the right way so we can give.
Like, whenever someone gives the caveat of, we're only going to take money from people who share our values, I don't believe you. I kind of think you're lying.
People faith again that their democracy is not bought and sold by the rich and powerful in this country.
Respond.
Yeah, I think the stakes here are so big for our country. I only want to say that, you know, when you were one of the 7 battleground states, there was a lot of dollars that people put into those states. And each gentlemen are to be applauded for raising the dollars into those 7 battleground states.
Yeah, Ken Martin is one of those people who's like, there are good billionaires, though. And that's because his ideological framework is incapable of identifying the actual threat to democracy, the actual knife pressed to the throat of democracy.
But all of America is a battleground right now. All of America is a battleground. And we need...
Honestly, Jennifer, I would be behind that if I believed that the Democratic Party was capable of taking money from billionaires and then not kowtowing to them. But I don't think I don't believe in the capability of the Democratic Party as it currently stands for them to take a ton of money from billionaires and then backstab those same billionaires by, like, legislating against them. It'd be really cool if they did. That'd be a legendary political maneuver. But I don't think they have the spine to do it. Though maybe give it like 4 to 8 years under Ben Wikler, and maybe they'll have a little bit more fortitude to pull something like that off.
To make sure that we have the ability to raise the dollars, to restore trust, and to do it in a way that assures people that this is not business as usual as it's always been done in the DNC.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now let's talk about, please go ahead.
I love it. I mean, each of us and so many people in this room have been involved in fundraising because you have to raise funds to be able to support this work. I do think that what we've done in Wisconsin with events like when we had the cast of The Princess Bride read the script, and we raised $4.5 million with an online fundraiser and more than 100,000 people participating. That brought a whole new group of people to support this kind of work. We've been able to figure out new ways to raise funds that have been replicated across the country, sometimes with folks on my team providing assistance to other states. So, we've raised more we can see in 5.5 years than in 14. And I think we need to come up with new ways to make it exciting to support this work, not feel like a drag, not feel like an obligation, but feel like something inspiring that people want to be part of. And I think that's what they have the opportunity to do.
All right, now let's talk about President Trump. On Monday, Donald Trump was sworn into his second term in office. A little more than 48 hours later, he's already issued questionable executive orders that challenge the constitutionality of birthright citizenship and increase the likelihood of use of military.
I mean, read art. I would say that if you just walk into a Discord and tell people you should be willing to die, it's not a great look. It's probably not going to endear you to folks.
Along our southern border. First, tell us what you think it means for Democrats to be the minority or opposition party in Washington under unified one-party rule of the federal government. How should Democrats brand themselves and communicate to voters as the opposition? And should Democrats actively seek out opportunities to work with President Trump, like Senator John Fetterman and others have indicated they will do? Please take up to 2 minutes to answer this important question. We'll begin with Governor O'Malley.
Members of Congress, members of legislatures, they have a duty to find coalitions and find ways to help people. And in our party, I believe that whenever there's an opportunity to actually strengthen the economic security, health, and well-being of families, the legislature needs to come together to find ways to do that. I do believe in this time, as the party of opposition, we need to make sure we fight every effort that Donald Trump takes that undermines that very economic security, health, and well-being of American families. We need to be consistent about that. There are so many things we can't be distracted by, because each day there's going to be a new parade of horribles and things that break away from the norm. But we have to up our communications ability when it comes to that fight. The reason we lost the last election was because so many people who work the hardest in our economy just to get by felt like we weren't talking to their economic concerns at their own kitchen table. So when now we are in opposition, we have the opportunity to push back and bring it right back to the kitchen table every time he does things like signing an order so that the drug companies can raise the price of prescription drugs. That's where we need to punch back hard, punch back consistently, and also do it online with trusted messengers. Second,
he's such an old hat, man. Like, none of these ideas are fresh or new. Like, this is the same strategy they've had. Like, take money from wealthy donors, maybe streamline the wealthy donor process, and then find high-profile influencers to, put out pro-liberal messaging on, like, Pod Save America. Let's go. Like, that's like his grand idea of revolutionizing democratic messaging.
everybody thinks he does that attack the core.
Yeah, he's running the same playbook as Bill Clinton. His strat's like 40 years out of date.
Value we share as Americans, and that is our belief in the dignity of every single person. And we need to be uncompromising in our commitment to that principle. Let us not be among those that remain silent while other groups of people are attacked. Otherwise, there'll be nobody to stand up for us. And third, we need to fight for the republic we carry in our hearts, because in a republic, nobody's above the law. Those are the three lines of counterpunch, opposition, and counterattack that's going to allow us to win the next election 2 years from now.
Chairman Wikler.
I agree with a big core piece of this, which is the job of a party, when you're the minority party, is to become the majority party. And that means
Honestly, actually, that's a great idea, Punky Gal. Like, it would be great for the chair of the DNC to like outlaw, outlaw big money and corporations spending on DNC elections. That could be really that would actually be feasible for them to control. That's a good idea.
our job is not to hug Donald Trump on stuff as a Democratic Party. The job of the party is to point out the things that Trump is doing that the vast majority of this country absolutely hate and reject, and make those the center of the conversation for people across the nation. Trump used a shock and awe strategy, and we know enough about Trump to not be shocked, but we also cannot let ourselves be awed. We can't be divided, going in a million directions at once. There's work on the governance side. Attorneys general and governors are now suing to stop the birthright citizenship order. Then his attacks on people's gender identity are outrageous, and we need to make sure that folks' very existence is honored by people who have the power to do it in public office and in the national conversation. And working people across this country who don't pay attention to politics voted for Trump to bring costs down. And he signed that executive order to push costs up, to allow pharmaceutical companies to rip people off. And if we come out of this week and every American knows that Trump broke his oath, his promise on day one, and sided with special interests against working people across all our communities, then we will have succeeded as a party. Because
dude gets it. Ben Wikler gets it. Ugh, my God. It hurts me how much he gets it and how apparent it is how hollow the two men beside him are, on these issues. God.
Because this week will hurt Donald Trump and Republican stances going forward instead of helping it. So we need to use our megaphone to bring a lightning focus on the things that crack the Republican Party, because most of their voters do not want the plutocracy that Trump and his best friends want to build. They want a country, most people, no matter their politics, and people who hate politics, they want to be able to support their lives and get through the day. And we need to be the party that fights for that the way people feel in their gut.
Ditto. Let me say, we're in fierce agreement on this, but in 2016, someone said to me, the Republicans are shameless and the Democrats are spineless. Think about that for a moment.
Not wrong.
If we're not willing to stand up right now, and of course, it shouldn't shock any of us in this room what's been happening the last 2 days, because he told us he was going to do this on the campaign trail. I think it's a shock to most Americans because they didn't believe him. We believe him, which is why all of us were working so hard to make sure he was defeated. But the reality is, if we don't fight back right now, when the stakes are so high for so many Americans, how in the hell is anyone ever going to believe us when we say we're going to fight for them in the future when we're in power? You see, we have to resist Donald Trump right now. We have to show people who have given up on our party because we speak out of both sides of our mouth.
Wait, why are some people saying that the average American actually does want fascism and wax poetic about this is who we are? Because some people prefer the security of knowing that we are already completely fucked, because it means you don't have to do anything. If you are a defeatist and a doomer, there is a certain amount of security in that, because you know what has happened, and there's no point in engaging to try and make it better. Do you believe that AOC is the future of the party? I think she's doing a lot right to set herself up for future political success. If she's the future of the party, it still remains to be seen, but I think she's doing some good moves and, working her way up and currying favor with the people she needs to curry favor with in order to potentially make a run for president someday.
My old boss, Paul Lobstrom, used to say, never separate the life you lead from the words you speak. There are too many hypocrites in both parties who say one thing and they get into power and don't do anything to deliver. The reality is, when we get in power, we got to make a difference in people's lives. We've got to use that power to actually show them that we give a damn about what they're going through and we're going to fight for them. So part of it is resisting for sure. We've got to resist Donald Trump with every fabric of our being because people's lives are going to be shattered and communities are going to be destroyed. We also have to, at the same time, and I know we can do this as Democrats, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We have to give people a sense of who we are. We have to define ourselves. We have to give people a vision, a positive vision of what this country would look like if they elect Democrats. And then when they give us the chance again, we damn well better deliver.
It's one thing to hold President Trump accountable, but I'd like to ask the candidates about an issue I've reported on extensively, which is accountability for members of your own party. Last year, U.S. Senator Bob Menendez was convicted in a corruption case for accepting bribes. Closer to home in Texas, Congressman Henry Cuellar has been indicted on charges of bribery.
Yeah, coolest dude in the universe. I don't fuck with doomerism. I don't fuck with it. I have no patience for it. It's one of the few things that will actively get me fired up and yell at chat, which may seem like I do a lot, but I don't yell at you guys a lot. I don't think. Just today's been rough.
Money laundering.
We got off on the wrong foot when that one chatter started talking about how Elon Musk doing a Nazi salute was actually 5D chess for cleaning out the swamp as like a secret double agent or some shit. I can't. I have no time for that shit.
And just down the block at the state capitol, my own reporting over the past decade has revealed multiple accusations of sexual harassment and worse to legislators like State Senator Boris Miles. Chairman Wikler, what do you believe is the appropriate role for the DNC in holding Democratic officials accountable when they have violated the public's trust? How can you expect to earn the trust and confidence of voters?
Yeah, Lizabeth, that is what started it, because I saw that and I was just like, that's stupid, and then tried to move on, and then the same chatter just kept doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on it. And then I went ballistic. I went fucking ballistic.
If they believe the DNC will look the other way when its own party's elected officials are accused of breaking the law.
We need to earn trust by showing that we mean it with our values. You can say a whole bunch of stuff, but if someone
The thing is, they had followed me for like the last 4 years. Crazy.
violates those basic values and you say nothing, then all of your purported values don't mean anything. And this is something that I've had to do in Wisconsin when we had an elected official who was found to have sexually harassed someone. I worked with the legislative leaders, and we made very clear that that person should step down. And ultimately, that person lost a primary after deciding not to step down. I think as a Democratic Party, there have to be some clear lines. And that doesn't mean rush to judgment. It doesn't mean going out. It doesn't mean constantly acting as though we're holier than thou. But it means having some bedrock principles about right and wrong and making clear what those are. That's not necessarily good or bad politics. It's just the right thing to do. And I think that in the long run, doing the right things actually.
Dude gets it. He just fucking gets it. It's like, man, there are so few people like this in the Democratic Party that are in a position to ascend to a really influential position. Like, it's cool. This makes me energized. This gives me hope.
Actually good politics.
Governor O'Malley.
Yeah, I used to be a prosecutor and I was also a defense attorney. When people do bad things, they need to be held accountable. We rely upon the Democratic leaders in our legislatures or governor's offices. But I think we're talking, mostly legislative leaders here, federal and that state. And we have to be very, very careful after what we've experienced now with Donald Trump and also the hollowing out of reporting on our various state houses and local government and state government. I mean, you can practically, you can shoot buckshot down the, or roll bullet balls down what it used to be the hallway where the press hung out at the State House in Annapolis. You don't find any reporters down there now.
Yeah, it's almost like capital interest gutted local reporting. It's it's strange how that works out when money takes over a lot of political operations. It's crazy.
We have to be very careful and fight against the temptation to think that Donald
night, Amber
Trump has
Brains.
lowered the bar for everybody. Donald Trump's lowered the bar for himself. We don't have to choose to lower it.
Yes, the guy on the far left is the one I dislike the most.
And we, and the DNC, needs to make sure that we are clear with our party leaders that we do a great damage to our party's reputation in the eyes of the people if we don't move expeditiously, yes, with due process.
How to not appear elitist and entitled. Show up to the DNC chair race with no tie.
Damn, you know what? I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, dude looks a lot more comfortable and a lot more like composed than his fellows on stage. He looks like he's in his element right here, you know? He's moisturized, in his lane, unbothered, thriving. And also Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. I very much appreciate the support, especially this late in the night, you know. 4 a.m. rolls around, the donations tend to slow down. So thank you very much.
Just look quickly when people do bad things in elected office.
I think one of the reasons we're at this moment in our democracy where there's such a low trust in politicians and institutions and parties is because you do have a lot.
Also completely immaterial to the actual discussion that is being made here, but I really like this lady's boots. I like her little booties. I think they're nice, and I wonder what brand they are, because I would definitely buy a pair. They look like the kind of shoes I would wear.
A lot of people who try to hold the other side accountable, but when it comes to their own party, they turn the other way. You know, Ben's talks about his role as the governor has as well. You know, in Minnesota, we've had to call out a number of elected officials, some at the very top of our party. And we hold you accountable. And I've been the first one to do that. Because I can't then turn around and try to hold Donald Trump accountable and talk about the rule of law and how important it is to our party if we're actually ignoring it in our own house. And so there's not much more I could say on this, but you've got to live your values. You've got to live your values. But people just feel like you're saying one thing and doing another. As I said earlier, they lose trust in you. Ben said this earlier, for people to trust our party, we've actually got to model the type of behavior that we expect of everyone else in our communities. We got to give them a sense that we're going to hold people accountable throughout up and down in our party, right? I don't care if they're the highest of high in our party, right? We've got to make sure that they're held accountable through our values and to societal norms.
Hammock writes, I think the reason many people fall into doomerism is the overwhelming circus and madness MAGA and Trump is putting on. Truman was a liberal, but his quote, if you can't convince them, confuse them, fits pretty much the current tactic of the Republicans. Yeah, definitely, right? I also think that the current strain of doomerism is largely predicated on the fact that the Democrats have done a pretty piss poor job intentionally of getting people involved in their local politics. And that's by design. They want few people to be involved in order that it's easier for them to control the political movement, you know? So a lot of people just don't know the amount of agency they actually have within the Democratic Party and also within their local political movements. Like through organizing, I can tell you guys that like having 10 people organized to like knock on doors in a local race is literally like just it's a game changer. Having like 10 people willing to like volunteer on a local level race can literally change the entire game. You know? It is huge. And that's just like a handful of people working together. Like I think that more people would be less prone to doomerism if they knew the amount of agency they actually had that the powers that be tend to try and obscure, you know? Organizing is just showing up to meetings and talking to people. That's basically it. You can do those. If you can do those, you can do great organizing. Exactly. Exactly.
Thank you. Gentlemen, we will now move on to questions from our audience.
Hi, thank you all for submitting questions in advance when you signed up, as well as when you got here through the QR code. Selected a few to read. It is clear after the cycle that media environment is incredibly fractured and voters are not relying on the same traditional news sources as they have in the past. We've seen a rise in the power of creators on platforms like YouTube, podcasts, and TikTok who command massive followings to shape the narrative. What are your plans for the DNC?
The person that got banned put in an unban request, but I'm just responding TLDR because it was a whole ass paragraph. And denying. Bye, bitch. We don't got time for doomerist shitheels like you.
To engage in the shifting media space?
O'Malley?
Thank you. I propose that we create an information war room at the DNC. Think of it as a center of excellence for digital communications. We have to up our game in our ability to provide all of our candidates, all of the state parties, with the tools they need, with the technology, with the techniques, with the information, with the marketing analysis, and also message testing, which we now have the ability to do in ways that we never did before. To do it.
Oh my god, message testing. Fucking shit. This guy is awful. I'm really glad a lot of high-profile Dems have not been endorsing him, as far as I know.
To do it inexpensively, to do it rapidly, and we have to also recruit those creators, more influencers. We have to bring into our party the next generation, because they're natives. That's how they communicate already. There is a correlation between what a poor job we do.
Hey, coolest dude in the universe, actually living up to your username. Want to thank this chat. The first time I actually went to the local county Democratic Party website. Hell yeah, let's go!
Recruiting the next generation of Democrats and the poor job we do of communicating.
Yeah, message testing, it's just marketing. He just wants to, like, try different messages with focus groups to see what tests well. Like he's trying to figure out how to cut a Hollywood movie. It's silly shit. Just act like the thing is, you know what tests really well? Working class policies that are clear and concise. It's not rocket science. You know what you don't need to really test the message of? Raising the minimum wage. You know you don't need to test the messaging of providing like free school breakfasts. These are not things you need to like test the messaging of. If you are clear and concise to voters, they will vote for you when you have good policy.
Dating online. We have to meet people where they are at, and we can't do it if we're not creating an agile every 2 week battle rhythm in the center of the DNC that then can emanate out. We also need to make sure that we hire people who are expert at digital communications in every state party. Because without that capacity, then the state parties can't be empowered to do what they need to do to meet people online where they're at and communicate all over the next 2 years, not just in the 3 weeks before the election.
Oh man, this guy's
How
bad.
do you do, fellow kids? As unproductive as doomers are, I'd still take a doomer over a loomer.
True. Thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. Do you think AOC would be a good choice for 2028? I think she could do it in 2028. It remains to be seen if she's going to be positioned to do it. Frankly, I'm not entirely sure who in 2028 would make a really good candidate, but I'm going to give you my dark horse, okay? You guys ready? You guys ready for my dark horse take? Okay. You guys ready? Sean fucking Fain. I think Sean Fain should run for president. That's my hot take. I think Sean Fain should run for president. I think he would win. And I think that it would... I don't think it would even be close. That's my hot take. Sean Fain, he's the president of the UAW, the United Auto Workers. One of the largest unions in the United States, and he is... He fucking gets it, man. He's like Ben Wikler. And I know he's organizing the general strike in 2028, but I'm telling you, man, if he organized that general strike alongside his presidential campaign, it would be one of the most badass things that would ever happen in American politics. That'd be so cool. I know it's not going to happen, and I know it's a long shot, but my God, would that be cool as hell? Other than that, like like if I had to give a more realistic answer, like I think JB Pritzker has a decent shot. Tim Walz might throw his hat in the ring. You know, is the scuttlebutt right now in Minnesota. Who knows? But right now, it's way too early to even begin speculating, I think.
Chairman Wikler.
I think we all agree it's essential that we actually look at where people make sense of the world, where they get their information.
Yeah, Whole Foods is unionizing. Amazon slowly losing its completely unionless position. Love to see it.
Show up to those places. We do it long term. I want to share that this has been a lot of my
No, you're confusing Sean Fain with the head of the Teamsters Union.
life's work and the work that we've done in Wisconsin. I launched a podcast before the podcast boom. Not the best timing. Learned a ton about how to build a big audience.
Ooh, Cute Dark Arts. What's the designer what's the designer brand? And like what are they called? So I can find them and find good dupes.
Online work to move on to change how we did our online organizing and communication. And in Wisconsin, we work with influencers, micro and macro influencers. We work with creators across the country. We work to supersize the narrative around the fights that we choose to identify. Fights, not just the big presidential campaigns, but things like our state Supreme Court race in 2023, which Republicans poured money into, more money in that race than had ever been spent on both sides of any judicial election in American history, but where we were able to...
Yeah, that race was fucked. It's kind of incredible that we pulled out with Janet Horowitz. I could never say her last name right. I'm so sorry, Janet. God.
Fight back and win in a landslide. And our team, our state party, has actually
Reed.
gone on to the presidential campaign, to national goals, to leading national organizations, because we've innovated in a state party. And I want to do the same thing at the DNC. We need to be a 21st century party. And that means actually showing up in different platforms that shift every week and every month. If you're not on TikTok, you're on Red Note now. If you're not on X, you're on Blue Sky. We like to be...
I mean, I honestly think Walz would still have a chance. I know he's a failed VP candidate, but like, I think people still genuinely liked him in a way that I think might trump his failed VP candidate status.
In all the places where people actually spend their time on their phones, on their screens.
Protasewicz, thank you. There we go.
In the world that they live in, not just the world that we want people to be paying attention to. Political news shouldn't be like broccoli. It should be where the fun and excitement is.
Dude gets it. You need to make politics fun. You need to make it like a good social event that people actually enjoy going to. Dude gets it. Make it like a part of like working people's social life. Let's go.
Chairman Martin.
I agree.
Like every 2 weeks, you got a place to go where you can get a slice of pizza with like your local, your local state reps, and like, I don't know, go do some door knocking or like figure out what's going on locally. Where are the unionization efforts at? How you can help out, things you can do. Like, man, we could be so much cooler than we are right now,
100% with what Ben just said. And I think the key to what he said is being nimble enough to realize that it's ever changing. It's constantly changing, this landscape, this communications and information.
Yeah, organize a little bit of the razzle and a little bit of the dazzle. You know what I'm saying?
Landscape that we exist in. I'm a hunter. People ask me all the time, well, where do you go to hunt? They think I'm gonna stay to the woods or it's my favorite deer stand. No, I go where the deer are, right? The reality is we need to go where the voters are. Where are they getting information, right? And we know that it's different across age strata. I'm 51 years old. I still read a hard copy of the newspaper every single morning. My kids think I'm crazy, right? They get all their information from TikTok, right? The reality is we have to do an information consumption survey to understand
Cute dark arts, I would love that. Thank you very much in advance.
across age, across demographic, where people are getting information, so then we can go meet them where they're at. And it has to be nimble enough to Ben's point to recognize that that's changing all the time. You know where the Republicans kicked our butts? 2020, right after that election. They started an incessant drumbeat in all of these online spaces, podcasts, dating services, online spaces, even online dating apps. They used micro-influencers. They paid them to spew out the misinformation, disinformation, and lies. And for 3 years before we ever even revved up our communications machine, they had already defined us before we defined ourselves.
I mean, in a way he's right about this, and in a way he's very wrong, right? Like, the way he's right is that they did do that, and that having that kind of year-round, off-election year type engagement is very useful for a political campaign. But the way he's wrong is that the main thing that sunk Democrats wasn't Republicans turning out as a result of that type of programming. It was Democrats not turning out because of the lack of, working class policy. Like, they can show up on as many Joe Rogan episodes as they want, but at the end of the day, what will trump that is pro-working class policy. And I think Ben Wikler gets that, but like, these other guys don't. Anders Norup, thank you for becoming a member on YouTube. Idiosyncrasy, I don't understand what a doomer is. Are they depressed people who have given up? They are people who wrongly believe that there is no hope at engaging with the system and trying to make it better, and so that they have simply said, I've done everything I can, it's still bad, and so I will do nothing. Effectively. Or even worse, I will actively try and make other people do nothing. And I don't fuck with that. If somebody doesn't want to like engage with politics, then don't engage with politics. But like, if you're gonna come to my chat and try and get other people to doomer with you, like, nah, we've got better things to do.
We can never allow that to happen again. We have to do what Ben's done in Wisconsin, everywhere in this country.
For the first time since the election of Ronald Reagan, Democrats lost voters in the bottom third of income earners. What is your analysis of the brand challenges Democrats face now, and how would you fix it as chair?
That is such a good question. Good on whichever local Dem in Texas asked that question. I'm very curious to hear the answer to that, because I've heard literally no Democrats reckon with that loss. This is one of the first elections in modern history where Democrats lost the working class. And I genuinely, I'm interested in how these establishment shills like Martin O'Malley are going to answer that question. They seem to avoid it at every given opportunity.
Let's start with Chairman Wikler.
For the last 4 years, so many Democrats have fallen into this trap of telling people who are yelling about how frustrated they are, about how the economy is not working for them. Democrats have been saying, no, actually the economy is great. You don't understand. Look at the GDP statistics. Everything's fine.
The stock market, the stonks are up. The stonks are up. How could we be doing badly? All Americans have stonks.
I don't think that that works very well. And I think what we have to start with is actually listening to people. And as we've been saying, and meeting them where they are. And then once we understand where people are, we can help explain how we got there, because there is a bad guy in each of these fights. So many people who got support from the child care tax credit, from bills that were passed by Democratic folks, the stimulus check Donald Trump signed, that was a Democratic idea. And then the money went away. And Democrats never pointed out that it was Republicans who killed that support. When people's income went down at the same time as prices went up, that was Republicans' fault. And when we think about what we do, a lot of times Democrats actually do walk the walk. They do the right thing. They don't talk the talk in a way that shows people that they're fighting the fight. And that's where we need to change. And we need to learn from the union movement. Because
Yes.
unions understand
Yes.
that the first question is, whose side are you on? You need to show people that you're on their side of this fight. You need to go to the places where they're having these conversations, and you need to visibly fight for things that make a difference in people's lives if you want to be able to earn their trust. And that's the core challenge Democrats need to do to be able to earn that trust across all our communities with working people across this country.
Chat, I'm like close to tearing up. This guy fucking gets it, man. He gets it. He's cooking. Literally, like, which side are you on? He's a goddamn union man. Let's go.
Chairman Martin.
Thank you so much. You know, look, some of you have heard me talk about this before. Last spring, there was research that came out. This should have been the canary in the coal mine, a giant red flag for a Democratic Party that showed for the first time in modern history, the perception of the two political parties has changed. Now the majority of Americans believe that the Republican Party best represents the interests of the working class, or the Democratic Party is the party of the wealthy and the elites. And sure enough, just to prove the point, the only two groups that we overperformed with in this last presidential election, wealthy households and college-educated voters. That is a damning indictment on our party. That's not who we are. And I will tell you, as the only card-carrying union member on this stage who comes from a working class background, I can tell you, my father-in-law, who's a beef cattle farmer in southern Minnesota, voted for Obama in 8 and 12. He voted for Trump 16, 20, 24. My brother, who's a union carpenter, same thing. Voted for Trump 16, 20, and 24. We are losing too many people who've been part of our coalition because they do not feel like we're fighting for them anymore. And the way we get back is focusing on a working class agenda, on an economic agenda that gives people a sense that we really understand.
Yet, so everything that he's saying is immediately undercut by the fact that just like 10 minutes previously, he was talking about how we need to take money from the good billionaires. You know, we need to do the good billionaires some favors, you know? Like, I don't know if you can prioritize a working class agenda when you're beholden to billionaires, man.
Understand their economic pain. We're not just sympathetic, we're empathetic because we've lived those experiences. I've lived those experiences of not knowing where your next meal is going to come from, not knowing where you're going to sleep at night because you don't have a house. We need more leaders in office who understand that. And we need a Democratic Party who understands that. We talk too much in stats and facts and reasons. We don't tell enough damn stories to give people a sense we really understand the pain that they're going through.
Frankly, I don't think voters need politicians who understand the pain that they're going through. I mean, maybe that helps in like a getting to know them kind of sense, feeling like you have a parasocial relationship with your political representation. But like, what working class people want are people who are going to pass legislation that helps them. That's what they want. You know, like, working class people didn't necessarily care that FDR was an incredibly rich motherfucker. They cared that he passed legislation that helped him, that helped them, you know? That's what they cared about. That's the entire point. I don't care if someone is like adopts the aesthetics of like caring or, you know, empathizing with my position. I care about whether or not they're going to help me. You know, if I'm dangling by like a root in the side of a mountain and I'm about to like slip to my death, I don't care if someone at the top of that cliff says, "Oh man, you know, this happened to my brother a long time ago. And, you know, I really understand what you're going through right now." It's like, I don't give a shit about that, buddy. Pull me up before I fall. It's not rocket science.
That's how we connect again. Not by all these stats and facts and reason, but through
Oh, and Von 400, before we put FDR on too high of a pedestal here, the only reason he adopted more pro-working class policies is because he was genuinely worried about a socialist revolution in the United States. It was meant to placate the socialists so that they did not, in fact, rise up and gain more political power. So, like, he was doing it out of, like, pragmatic political reasons, but, like, for working class people, that didn't matter. It helped them materially. And we need policies like that now.
personal stories and lived experiences. When we do that again, we will give people like my brother and my father-in-law a sense that we know what's going on in their life.
Thank you. Dr. O'Malley.
Yeah, so speaking of stories, true story. When I was running for re-election as governor of Maryland after the recession, 2010, my well-intended media consultant said, please do not tell people that we're making things better. Nobody feels better now than they did before the recession. And I said, I know. And we have to acknowledge that. We have to say, we see you. We understand.
Okay, but we know that you're lying. You know, like, you don't give a shit about an individual voter in your district. Are you kidding me? Like, buddy, I don't care if you see me ever. I don't care if you understand me. I just need you to understand the plight of the working people in my state. I need you to do something, man.
Understand your struggle. We understand what you're going through. And then, and only then, we'll be able to make the argument that we are on your side, therefore, and these are the actions we're taking to make things better. And that's why we need to keep going. You know,
Neither Martin O'Malley nor Ken Martin understand the fundamental issue. That is readily apparent to me.
For we used to travel all around my state in a green Winnebago, we would literally strap a kitchen table to it. Now my volunteers would carry it out like it were the presidential seal or something, set it out.
Funny you say, Gamergy, is that so? I'm just going to read your comment verbatim. Funny you say that, Jack. Did you know that in the early 1900s, labor unionists, frustrated by the endless coal wars, got involved in transforming the Democratic Party into a working class party, and then they got the New Deal? Almost as if there's a message to that. Yeah, it's almost as if, you know, that's what we need to do. It's like poetry, it rhymes.
For the talk in a church basement, what have you. And I say, you know what this is? This is the most important place in our state. We have to publicly acknowledge, once we elect a new leader of this party, that we failed to speak to your concerns. We have to promise.
Man, whoever did this live stream really fucked up the video and audio.
The American people that we're going to change our party to change our country in order to do a better job of fighting for them, for the better future that they're working so hard to give to their kids.
It's literally a leftist video too. It turned to the left.
And that's the narrative arc. Not fact after fact after fact beating into your head. That's the narrative arc for the next 2 years.
Thank you, gentlemen. We've got one more important audience question.
I know this is important to a lot of people in the room. Rural Texans and rural voters nationally are a core part of the winning coalition. How will the DNC invest in rural voters?
Let's start with Chairman Martin.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I'm really proud of our work on actually not only writing the 57 state party strategy, but coming up, Jamie Harrison and I created the Red State Fund with acknowledgement that we have to do more in red states, right? We have to do more, and it's not enough. Ben and I both agree we have to do significantly more there. And I
Jesus,
think
what?
part of the challenge, of course,
Okay.
reflecting on my father-in-law's experience for a moment, right? You know, he's a beef cattle farmer. He's farmed this land for 135 years. He's got, and when I asked him about why he voted for Trump, I was expecting to get an answer about farm policy or something like that. But you really start to understand, like many people in small towns throughout this country, he started talking about the fact that his family, my wife included, we're going to come home to farm the land that's been in their family for 135 years. That the high school
Is
that
he the
went
only
to
person you
is closed
know?
up, so he doesn't have a Friday night football game to go to anymore. The clinic that he takes his wife to for her healthcare is closed, so he's got to drive 50 miles to find healthcare, right? And you realize, here's this man, 85 years old, should be carefree, living out the last days of his life, right? But he's got a lot of anxiety.
Whoa, living out the last days of his life. You can live for a solid, like, 35 more years, buddy. Like, what do you... Don't say he's living out the last days of his life, all right? He's still got some pep in his step. Come on now.
In his gut. He's worried about his future, and he feels like his identity has been taken away from him, and he feels like people have forgotten about him in this community. Part of this is showing up, being present, investing, and making sure that we give people a sense that we haven't forgotten about them, no matter where they live in this country.
Governor O'Malley.
Yeah, another story. I met some of you, I saw Larry on, and I've seen others here that I've met during that period when we last did this to ourselves, from 2016 to 2018. I created my own leadership pack, much to the annoyance of my friends, because they kept asking me for money, in order to travel the country, to go to so-called red states, and to be able to campaign with and knock on doors with and bring attention to candidates that were running for state legislative offices, sometimes in districts where they didn't even file a Democrat before. So if we want to be connected, if we want a rural strategy, we got to recruit people from rural areas and small towns to run for office.
Yeah, Ben Wikler's already addressed that, man. Like, I don't know. It seems like you're playing a lot of catch up here. Also, like, after you lost the presidential primary in 2016, you formed the super PAC and then traveled the country on other people's money. I'm not impressed by that, honestly.
Candidates actually connect our party to people in places. And it's not just the state legislature. If you have a neighbor that you know that you vote for one of the courthouse offices, administrative offices, it's a lot easier then to take their word for somebody else that's running for a policy office, say a state legislative office. But we have to recruit candidates all over the country, and it's a sad truth. And in the lead sponsors of abortion ban bills in Texas, Mississippi, and Ohio did not even face a Democratic opponent in the very next election. We've got to win back our states to take back our country.
When national reporters write about rural areas, it's usually shorthand for rural white working class voters. And you can tell a lot of them not spend much time in the Rio Grande Valley. There's a myth that rural voters are monolithic. And there's incredible diversity among rural voters, among rural counties. There's totally different economies, different cultures all over this country. And if we want to get this right, we need to organize from the ground up everywhere.
Yep.
That's what we've worked to do in Wisconsin. Wisconsin, very, very white state, but there is a significant Latino population in rural Wisconsin. There's a big Hmong population in rural central Wisconsin, and we organize everywhere with folks on the ground. And we've been able to add those in 2024 in rural counties. Most rural counties.
Give them the
added
people's
those mayors
elbow.
Relevant to survival. Wisconsin was one of the few states where Democratic turnout went up in this presidential election because we were organizing everywhere. While it fell in Maryland. And
Dude, champion of this question. Absolute champion.
Another reason to be in the room where all this stuff happened.
Exactly, Jaeger Larson. Like, it'd be so great if we could get our community involved enough in their local Democratic Party that we could get delegates that could vote on this, you know? That could vote and like help ensure that this guy gets into the chair position. Dude literally has been organizing in rural areas for his entire like political run here.
Minnesota, those states across the country. And it doesn't mean you win every election when you do this. It means that year over year, you can build the trust that allows you to win more elections when the moment comes. And that's exactly what we need to do in Texas, that people in this room have been doing in Texas. And that's what a national party needs to invest in, a plan in each state to organize from the bottom up on a year-round basis to build the trust, to build the infrastructure in rural America and the rest of America to be able to win elections and win the future. That's what we should do together.
Let's go, Ben. How much is left in the video? Like 10 minutes, but I'm not sure like how much more content is left.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, there's one more from me. The Democratic coalition is not exactly represented on the stage today. None of the candidates here are people of color. All are men, the youngest in his 40s. None of y'all have worked in the service industry or building trades in a long time. How are you the right people to lead the Democratic coalition and to ensure that experiences, values, and priorities of young people, people of color, working class folks, queer folks, and women, all of whom the Democratic Party must engage in order to win, are reflected in the party's work? Governor O'Malley, we'll start with you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your invitation and also the call of your question. And there's actually a much broader group of candidates who are going to be on the forum tonight. We've done 2 forums. We've had the Black Caucus Forum, which was interesting. It was done jointly with the LGBTQ caucus forum. So I had served as mayor of Baltimore. When I ran as mayor of Baltimore in 1999 with more hair, more of it black, I had a come from behind victory that shocked people. In fact, we Post the next morning greeted my come from behind victory over 2 better known African American candidates with the headline, "White Man Wins Mayor of Baltimore." And then they apologized the next day for it, which was ironic because it was 100% accurate in what it said. I have worked with very diverse communities my whole life. Maryland is a very diverse community. And our party's greatest strength is our diversity. The key to collaborative leadership, collaborative servant leadership, is the ability to be present and with, and to understand, and to put yourself in the shoes of other people, to realize that each of us is important, each of us brings a different story to this tapestry of democracy. And it's a humbling honor to be able to run for this office. And I ask people to judge me by my work and by my record and make their evaluation as to which of the 9 of us would be best to lead this party.
Dude sounded like he was falling asleep mid sentence. Good golly.
Thank you, Governor. Chairman Martin.
Yeah, thank you. And, look, we are all white guys. I'm a middle-aged white guy. I can't change that, right? But what I can say is that the way I
But would you? What? Would you change it if you had the chance, sir? He starts sweating profusely.
led in my party is to make sure that we, both as it relates to our staffing, as it relates to contracts, as it relates to our outreach and organizing, that we
Hey, spicy
reflect
diarrhea.
everything
Get good
we
sleep.
do, the great diversity of our party. And Governor O'Malley's absolutely right. We're just 3 of 9 candidates. There are 2 women, one by Dr. Hathaway, a woman of color. There are other candidates that bring different lived experiences to this race who aren't here tonight. That said, I will say that it's really important for the next chair of the DNC, if it's one of us three, and I think it will be, that they reflect on the fact that we come from a place of privilege, but we represent a party that with so much great diversity, with so many great people that we should be bringing in, and we have to be intentional about that, both in contracting, both in the way we do our organizing, both in the way we do our hiring, and in leadership positions, so that our party looks like the people that we are trying to win over. Representation matters, and intentionality matters here. And again, I agree with the government. Judge us on our actions, not our words. I think most of us have records of making sure that we are reflecting the great diversity of our bigger group.
Chairman Wikler.
I think the key thing for each of us is that the DNC chair, Jonathan, is to help other people win elections. And the most important election is going to be the sum of a whole bunch of elections to determine whether Leader Jeffries becomes Speaker Jeffries in 2026 by winning a House majority with what will be the most diverse House caucus across the United States. We've worked to elect Democratic governors, and most Democratic governors, last time I checked, were women across this country. We worked to elect and support Democrats running for office at all levels that reflect the full diversity of our coalition. To do that means having a whole leadership team that reflects our whole coalition across race and gender and ethnicity and gender identity. It means ensuring that the people on the team, the vendors that we work with, the organizers that are out talking to the voters that we need to connect with, then all of those levels reflect our fundamental commitments and a full coalition that does this work. But fundamentally, we're actually not at the center of this work. And I live this every day in my state, as I know Ken wants to do in his state. In Wisconsin, we've been able to dramatically expand the at every level of office, the diversity of our candidates, the people who hold and actually wield power in the public interest and in the public trust. And I think it's incumbent for the DNC chair to recognize both the privilege that the underprivileged that they have, but also that their job is to make sure that the Democratic Party fights for, includes, represents, and is able to lift up folks of all skin colors, of all backgrounds, because that is what makes this country great.
Dude nailed it. Dude nailed it. Like, I am feeling very hopeful from watching this that Ben Wikler has this in the bag. Between this and Nancy Pelosi's endorsement, like, I'm excited. I'm daring to hope right now, and that feels dangerous.
Thank you, gentlemen. You can each do 2-minute closing statements. We'll do seat order, so starting with Chairman Martin.
Well, we have an amazing opportunity in this moment. In every crisis, there's an opportunity, and it's to reimagine the DNC. There's so much that's still unpacked from this last election. We don't have all the data or the answers at this point. But what I do know is, over my 34 years in politics, I've seen a DNC that has not been organizing in a way that's building long-lasting and durable infrastructure to help us. As I mentioned before, what is the role of a political party? It's singular. There's no brownie points coming in second place. You can't improve people's lives as at the end of the day, you lose. We have to win again. Our national party has to win again, and that's because it's some sort of sport and we just pat ourselves on the back or put a check mark on the board and congratulate ourselves. Winning and losing is a difference in so many people's lives. So many people who rely on our party to build power for them. We're hoping that we elect people who share their values and our values so they'll make a difference and maybe make their lives a little bit better. That's what all of us are fighting for. That's what all of you are fighting for. The reality for me is this DNC can do so much more.
Yep.
In partnership.
You are right about
with all
that
of you
one.
on the ground in so many throughout this country. If we would only reimagine. This is our opportunity to do that together. I'll leave you with this. This may disqualify me in some of your eyes, but I don't have all the answers. I'm both excited and terrified at the same time. I've never been a DNC chair, these guys have been. I don't know what's waiting for us now. But I have a plaque in my voice that says none of us are as smart as all of us. And I believe that all of us can figure out any of the challenges that this Democratic Party is going to do, and we can overcome. So thank you so much for having me tonight.
We're in this crisis moment now as a country. We're watching the hammer blows rain down the White House. In Texas, you've been experiencing this for a long time from your state government. And we're in a moment where people, if you ask the general public, they don't really trust either party. There was a headline about how trust in the Democratic Party was at an all-time low of 33%. And someone pointed out in the comments that trust in the Republican Party was 36%. People just don't trust our political system right now.
Yep.
And
because it's not providing the things we need. It is not delivering for us.
if we want to build change, we have to build trust. And if we do that, then we can think bigger. I think a lot in this work, we think about 2026, midterm elections, and 2028, the presidential elections. If we do everything right, we get a federal trifecta, we can pass the national laws that we've been waiting for. We can finally pass the Women's Health Protection Act and end Texas's abortion ban, and the Protected Right to Organizing Act, and end election and the Felonious Voting Rights Act, and the Freedom to Vote Act. We can do all that. But then the next year comes, and 2030 could be like 2010. The Republicans sweep in a backlash and then rig this country for the next decade. And I think our job right now is to build a party strong enough that not only can we win elections for these next two election cycles, but we can shift the center of gravity and build the kind of enduring coalition that can win the next decade beyond. And this has to run through Texas. There's a reason that we're here, because the vision for building the kind of country that everyone deserves a chance to live in, it requires us to do this work with a national party as a catalytic investor, to work with the union movement, to work with our partners and our allies across this country in this state, to support the work that you do every day, to be able to win that trust and win up and down the ballot the way we can change the entire future trajectory of this country. You are on the front lines. We're not really counting on you. We have to show up in solidarity with you every step of the way for the years to come. And if I'm the DNC chair, you have my commitment that we will do exactly that. Thank you.
Dude talks in a way where like he clearly believes in it. One of the things I am increasingly really excited about from Ben Wikler is that he is genuine. You know? Please tell me that is Ben Wikler, who just finished speaking. Dude genuinely gives a shit, is genuinely invested in winning, and that's the kind of dude we need for the party to turn and embrace working class policy. Yeah, he's actually earnest, yeah.
All that we need depends on change. And this election for DNC chair is definitely a change election. We can kid ourselves and pretend that if we just do a little better in 7 battleground states next time, it'll all fix itself. It's not going to fix itself.
Oh, you found your frog
We have
plushie.
to
Congrats.
We have to embrace the truth that this is a moment for change. The party's future, our country's future, depends on the new South. It depends on Texas. It depends on the Lone Star State becoming the North Star State. When you all have 42 congressional votes, you are going to become the great state that determines our nation's future. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, do we have the courage to change? Do we really have the courage to make investments in voter registration, to up our game when it comes to digital communications? Or do we want to keep doing things the way we have been doing things? What I offer you as your next chair, if you should so choose, is someone who has proven his abilities as an operational turnaround change leader at every level. In the city of Baltimore, the neighbors of my city voted for me because I promised we would change. And we did, and we made our city a safer and better place, and I was reelected. As governor, we passed and got a lot of important things, some of them like the living wage done for the first time, because we changed the operations of our state. And President Biden tapped me to go to Social Security, the largest domestic program in America, not because things were going well, because it was on a steep downward trajectory, and we turned it around. That's what we have to do. We need you, Texas. Thank you for coming out here. If we had the courage to embrace this moment and vote for change, we can save our country. I need your help, and I thank you for being here tonight. Thanks a lot.
This concludes
Honestly, I love the order that they chose to go in there at the end because it makes it so abundantly clear that Ben Wikler gets it, man. He gets it. And then we get like the okay, we get Ken Martin, he's kind of all right. And then we get Ben Wikler, who blows the house down and actually understands the fucking issue. And then we get like the milquetoast neolib to close us out, and it's so apparent where the energy is, where the enthusiasm is, where like the earnestness is. Like it's crazy. So I'm really glad we watched this. Remember, the election is going to be on Saturday, February 1st. So I'll try and get this video out, I guess tomorrow. Later today. This is the mechanism of how our party works. How our left-leaning duopolistic power works. And you know what? We need to understand it so we can co-opt it for our future leftist endeavors. Future endeavors to make the Democratic Party actually reflect the working class of America. It's going to take some doing, but I think we can do it. Hope you'll join me. And with that, good luck and Godspeed, Ben Wikler. Let's steer a path to a better future, huh? Get the heck involved? Exactly. You got it.